Hi there, I'm Simon Kenton, and this is my review of Rebel Yell by Garrett Robinson. So, to start off, I'd like to point out that I'm friends with Garrett Robinson online, and he's also my editor. So, I try to be as fair as possible, but just I'd like to point that out up the top. So, let's see. The other thing to point out is I don't have my usual microphone, so apologies for the crappy sound. Um, so, the first thing I'd like to say is that this is a very difficult book for me to review because well, I'll start off by saying that I beta read this book pre-release, and I've just read it again post-release, and I think this is an amazing book with a fatal flaw in it, and without going into spoilers, I'll just say that there's a twist in the book, and the twist is obvious from the first page. Well, the first chapter, or a couple of chapters at least. Not the first page, would be a bit extreme. And it's incredibly written. Like, it's such a good book. The twist feels like it's a misstep in an otherwise perfect book. Like, this is, don't get me wrong, this is a 5-star book, even with its problems, but it feels like with a tiny little tweak it would have been like a amazing all-time classic book. So I very much enjoyed this book. So as I say, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but I'll go into the plot at least. So Steve is in a band with 3 other members. Steve's the main character, and Steve is convinced that the only way that they're going to become successful musicians is by signing a contract with a record label. Whereas Tanya, who's also in the band, thinks that they should go indie and produce their own CDs and have it up online and stuff like that. And Tanya and Steve have made a deal that if Steve can get them a record contract within 3 months, then they'll go with the record label. And if Tanya said if it's been 3 months without that happening, then they're going to go indie. So we start the story like a month, I think, before the deadline, and Steve gets a call from a record producer saying that he'll make a deal that Steve can write for one of their major artists and if he does that, they will then sign him as a hit artist or a new artist or whatever. So I'm guessing I've given this description to a few other people who haven't read the book, and they guessed the twist just from that much. So I'm guessing that most people can guess the twist really from that much. Even so, like, even though you probably already guessed the twist, this book is so good. Like, I read it twice. I read it in June, I think, May or June, and I've just read it again in August. So within 3 months I've read the book twice, and I rushed through it both times. It's an amazing, amazing book. It's a real insight. Like, it gets to the core of what being an artist in whatever field is, not necessarily just a musician. So it's all the things that all the mistakes first time people make is what Steve makes. The things that I've pointed out on my other videos, and I keep pointing out to people, there's new writers, people who are just starting out, who contact me and ask me about writing. And I always point out the same things, that you have to outline, you have to write until you're finished, and then you edit, and it's always going to be crap the first time. Your first draft's always going to be rubbish. And that's what this book is pointing out, but pointing out in a much more eloquent way than I just did. And it takes you on such a journey, and the characters are so great that it's enthralling the whole way through. I really, really love this book. So this book is currently free on Garrett Robinson's mailing list. I'm just going to double check that before I But the last time I checked, that was the case. Let's see. Yeah, sign up for my weekly emails and you'll get a free download link to my book Rebel Yell. So I'm talking about a 5-star book here that you get for signing up to a mailing list, where you just hear about more of books from the same author, from Garrett, which are all high quality. So I would highly recommend going and signing up for his mailing list, which I will leave a link in the description, and getting a free book that's a 5-star book, because I don't know that Garrett really knows what he's got on his hands. So I've read a lot of Garrett stuff, pretty much all of his stuff, except for the newest Nightlight and a little bit of Roundkeepers. Roundkeepers I kind of stopped reading, but everything else I've read. And this is another level. Like, this is, if someone had given me this book as a recommendation from an author who only had one book, which was this, and like their name was Joe Bloggs or something, I'd never heard of them, I would be thinking, oh my god, Joe Bloggs is going to be one of the biggest names in writing going forward. It's like Ready Player One, to compare it to another 5-star book I read recently. Ready Player One's the first book by that author, and I'm thinking, oh my god, this author is going to be huge. Like, he's going to be the new Scalzi or any of Terry Pratchett or something, like a huge author. And this book is just another level from Garrett that I love his books. I think they're great books, but this is like a level above. So I highly recommend it. I've been going on enough. So I'm going to do another video where I'm going to spoil things in the book. So if you've read the book, you can check that out. If you haven't read the book, sign up to Garrett's mailing list in the description. Grab a copy of the book, go and read it, and then come back and read my spoilery review after that. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.